Halloween! We all know it. Howling at the moon, collecting souls, trick-or-treating, eating candy, casting spells, haunting the living. But what you probably don't know is just how far back it goes. All the way back in 2000 BC, ancient Celts would dress up to avoid being kidnapped by spirits crossing over to the physical world. And a few thousand years later, similar Christian traditions merged with these ancient Celtic traditions. And when immigrants arrived in America during the 1800s, they would tell each other ghost stories and play pranks on each other. But what we now know as Halloween didn't really start until the 20th century, with the rise of trick-or-treating, scary movies, and haunted houses. And now, every Halloween, there's always some kind of scary trend. But for the past few years, I just haven't been feeling the Halloween spirit. So, with Halloween only a couple days away, I'm going to be recreating some of these classic Halloween trends to really get in a spooky mood. For our first trend, we're going old school. The ancient Celts thought that the barrier between the physical world and the spiritual world was weak during this time. So to protect themselves, they would leave offerings for fairies and spirits. And because I don't want to be kidnapped by a gang of fairies in my sleep, I'm going to be offering them some Halloween-themed cinnamon rolls. Alright, I've got everything I need right here, so let's just jump right into it. For our first step, I'm going to grease up this pan with this pan, and then we can move on to putting in the cinnamon rolls. So let me pop open this pan here and spray it. And once it's greased up really good, we can get out our cinnamon rolls. So let me just bust these open. I'm going to rearrange these into an intestinal pattern. I'm done rearranging the cinnamon rolls, and the pan might be just a little bit too big. I'm not really sure, but it's gonna work out great. It's gonna be great. These are just the small intestines of a really tiny creature. And now I'm just gonna put these in the oven and we can get to work on the frosting. We want a really nice bloody frosting for our intestines. So I have the normal frosting, and then I'm supposed to get red food dye, but I couldn't find any. So we're just gonna use red cookie icing, and we're gonna mix them together in this mug. And unfortunately, the only utensil I have is this fork. Let's open this up. And now I'm gonna put in my favorite ingredient, red 40. I'm gonna put a lot of it in. For a little extra spice, I'm gonna add some strawberries. I just gotta wash them first. It's time for the big reveal. The cinnamon rolls just finished cooling down, so here's everything we have. We have our intestines, we have our guts, and we have our blood. So I'm gonna put everything together now. And here's my final offering for the fairies and the spirits, so let's hope I don't get kidnapped tonight. And so I set out my offering, waved goodbye, and went to sleep. And when I woke up, the offering was all gone. And I even got a letter back from the spirits telling me that if I leave food out again, I'll be evicted. And they even signed it as my apartment complex. But I think they're probably just playing a trick on me for trick-or-treat. For my next Halloween trend, I'm going to be telling a scary story. And what better way to tell scary stories than with strangers? So, I'm gonna hop on Omegle TV and tell a stranger one of my scariest stories. Hey, you wanna hear a scary story?
Yeah.
Once upon a time, there was a young man who really wanted to be an astronaut. And after years of hard work and determination, he finally made it to a space shuttle. But something was off. His crewmates were acting really suspicious. But he had worked so hard to get there, so he just tried to go about his normal routine. But when he went to go do his tasks, an emergency meeting was called. Everyone gathered to discuss, but before he could even get a word in, one of his crewmates said, "There is an imposter among us." And from that point forward, nothing was ever the same. One by one, his crewmates dropped like flies. The imposter was so suspicious, yet so good at covering his tracks. And after only a short period of time, it was just the young crewmate facing off with the imposter. He never stood a chance. there were no survivors.
So what do you think?
That's a very interesting story.
You said Among Us. I don't really know what that is. Pumpkin carving is one of the most popular activities during the Halloween season, but this year, there's been a little bit of a twist. I've seen some pumpkin designs floating around the internet that look really, really dumb. One might even say that these are dumb-aw pumpkins. And so for the next Halloween trend, I'm going to be making my own dumb-aw pumpkin. It's time to bring out the pumpkin. Let's begin. Here's what the pumpkin looks like before I clean it out, and here's what it looks like after. Now I'm gonna draw the face of the dumb-aw pumpkin. Let me give you a closer look. Duh. Now let me carve it out. It's time for the final reveal. Now there's just one thing left to do. Now that is a dumb-aw pumpkin. When you think of classic Halloween costumes, what comes to mind? Is it vampires, witches, zombies, Peely from Fortnite? Well, today, we're not going to be doing any of those. We're going to go with the most classic costume of all time, the ghost. That's why I have this sheet here, because I'm going to make a homemade ghost costume, and then I'm going to go film a viral TikTok trend from a few years ago. How do I look? I don't really feel like marking where to cut where my eyes are, so I'm just gonna go right for it. I have some scissors right here, so I'm just gonna go for it. Now it's time for the final touch. Let's play the TikTok.
I can't be the only one who hears you. Tears falling down at the party. Saddest little baby in the